Hi everybody, this is Fealindale, doing my voiceover for Class Wars for both September 1st and September 29th of 2016. You can see the split screen little side-by-side thing that I have cooked up. Thought I'd try something a little different since I never got around to doing my voiceover from the first. So on the right hand side of the screen, you will see all of my fights in chronological order from the 29th, and on the left hand side of the screen, you will see my fights from the 21st, but not in chronological order. I reordered them so that I'm facing the same opponent at the same time. So here you can see my both fights against Ice at the same time, for example. So here against Ice, you can see Ice is using different selves, using a Odin and a Thor. The reason I decided to do this side by side, well, there's a couple reasons. One of them is that I just didn't want to try to record that much audio. I didn't want to do that much voiceover. I'm just lazy. And then also, my strategy wasn't very different between the two fights, and so I didn't really have an hour and a half worth of stuff to say. My strategy is real simple. I just turtle. I'm using my Guardian Runes and my Guardian Titans, and I'm not going into Self mode. I'm just kind of staying down so that I don't take damage. I don't have a second Self on my team. I just have my Kid and one Self so that I can win on timer wins, and then I can win all the timer fights. On the left side, Ice is just AFK. He must have just had his computer open, or maybe a friend logged him on, so he would at least be in the fights. And on the right hand side, obviously putting up quite the fight, no Eudaimon on his team, so he's trying to win on timer as well. But I think it's better to have your Eudaimon and only one Self. I don't know, I've gone back and forth. Maybe if I had another Frigga, I would consider having a team of two Selves and no Eudaimon. I like having that Eudaimon though. They give me Chaos Resist, Amnesia Resist. My Awakening goes down slower when I'm in Self mode. And I have a higher maximum rage, so I like all those passive effects. So it's very straightforward. On the left hand side, I am running light, dark, and wind resistance, so I'll get hit pretty hard against Friggas and Thors. And on the right hand side of the screen, I'm running light, dark, electric, and fire resistance, so I'll get hit hard by Goddess of Prosperity, but not as hard by the Thors. So that's my strategy. That's what I'm going with. Big part of it is I just have to stay alive. But here, Ice actually pulled out a victory against me, which I was a little surprised by. I thought I was doing really well against Ice, but he was just able to get in more damage than I was. My second fight was against a Whitley, but I later on figured out that this was supposed to be against Zardoz, because Zardoz was just late to Class Wars. He did show up later and have quite a few wins, but he wasn't here at the start. Here's my fight on the left-hand side. I do like that we can focus on the Zardoz fight, because Zardoz is a phenomenal player, and I really enjoy my fights against him. Oh, looks like I'm just doing my buffs on the right-hand side of the screen. I didn't have any buffs going in that fight against Ice that could have affected the outcome as well. So on the left-hand side, going back to Zardoz, he's the highest BR mage and has been for the last 9 months or more. And he just hits so hard. But his attack isn't his main strength. He's tanky, kind of like I am. Really high defense, really high health, and that gives him a lot of BR. His attack isn't as high as some other players, and since he's using an Odin, I usually stack up my light and dark resistance pretty much, so I feel pretty comfortable fighting them, and I can kind of rotate around my Guardian Runes and Guardian Titans. Looks like he's using a Mire rune. Looking at that passive down on my bar, that's interesting in itself. Don't see very many players using Mire runes these days. I think it slows down my speed, if I remember right, my casting speed. Anyway, I hop into Sylph mode very late in the fight after he's already down, kind of with the hopes of throwing out some steals and stopping him from getting into Sylph mode again. Part of that, then I have to survive. Oh, hang in there, buddy. There goes my troop. Whew, that was close. Still really close. Gotta get a heal in. I don't like to be healing or doing shields in the last 45 seconds of the fight. I'd much rather be doing my big damage attacks, because that's where the fights are decided, is in the last 45 seconds of a fight. And you have to do a lot of damage then in order to get your victories. But I fall out of Sylph mode. I'm actually okay with dropping out of Sylph mode, because my AoEs down on the ground hit pretty hard as well, and they reduce the damage my opponents will deal. So I'm okay with not being in Sylph mode for the last couple seconds, as long as I can get some good AoEs in earlier in the fight. And that looks like timer, and I pull out a win against Zardoz. I've actually done very well against Zardoz the last couple months. He always uses that Odin, and I'm able to pull out wins, because he doesn't hit me hard enough. We always go to timer, and he uses a full team. Since I don't kill his troops, they take a lot of damage. So here's Hitters and Electric. Both of these players were only in Warlord's Hall once in September. So I was not able to show two fights at once. So I paired them up together. For all the players that I put side by side this month, I'm not trying to slight you having reduced time on screen or whatever. This is just the most logical way to show all the fights. So sorry that you didn't get your own fight by yourself. On the right hand side against Electric, using an all-wind team. Don't see that very often. You can see it with Friggas once in a while, and then Ray uses that. But using straight wind as your backup troops is kind of rare nowadays. And I don't have any wind or water resistance on the right-hand side of the screen. So I'm actually rather worried in this fight against Electric. Electric traditionally is not one of the strongest players in Warlord's Hall. But any player in Warlord's Hall could win any given fight, so I'm very concerned. On the left side, Hitters is using a Thor, and I don't have any electric fire resistance, so that concerns me a little bit too, but I'm able to keep him out of Sylph mode, and so then he's not able to hit me for very much when he's not in Sylph mode. I'm doing well over there. Against Electric, I gotta manage to stay alive, which is a constant difficulty when I don't have the right resistances. But I also have to keep dealing out damage. It's a hard balance to win on the timers, because you got to keep hitting damage. You got to hit those AoEs, or else you're not going to win on timer. But at the same time, you can't just give up on your defense. You got to make it to the timer. You got to survive. My stats are pretty high, but they're not that high to just automatically win. It looks like he's using one of those skills from his Wind Sylphs that reduces damage taken, and it looks like it's hitting his whole team. On the right-hand side of the screen is after the patch, and it looks like after the patch they changed a lot of the Sylph skills around, and so it looks like they might have changed some of those Wind Sylph skills to be more group effects. So I'm not able to survive. I can't keep it going, and I die. Against Hitters, got the timer win. So not doing very well. Out of my 3 fights so far, I've lost 2 of them, but that's what happens. And they weren't against the top players either. Here's DCKnight and Gwendela, more players that were in Warlord's Hall just once. There's probably like 20 to 24 mages that could be in Warlord's Hall in any given month. Salander and Salistar were not in any of these videos that I'm showing here today. They weren't in Warlord's Hall at all in September, and both of those players have made frequent appearances and are both very tough. I also know Elitan is definitely strong enough to do well in Warlord's Hall, has won Class Wars in the past. And then there are a couple others. I know I'm going to forget people and they're going to be mad at me, but there's a lot of players just kind of up and coming. Ariel is tough too, from Wolfpack on Kong 1. And yeah, I'm not going to try to list everybody because I'll be here all day. There's a lot of tough players, and I kind of like that. It's a little more of an even playing field. You still have those top 3 or 4 that just dominate. But besides them, it's kind of a air ball, you know, a jump ball, kind of up for grabs for anybody. Here you can see me just kind of biding my time. I'm still not going into Sylph mode against DCKnight, using that Rage rune to get more AoEs before I hop up. On the left-hand side, I went into Sylph mode a little earlier against Gwendela, but I'm okay with that because my team is smaller than hers, and I'm confident I'll be able to hit her harder because I have AoEs and she's using a Thor, so I'm not too concerned about losing that timer win on the left. Against DCKnight, however, he's using a Frigga, which is pretty dangerous to me, as I've already experienced against Electric. Gotta stay alive in this last 45 seconds of fighting, which has been more difficult than I'm used to. I'm usually hanging out a little tougher than today. Got that shield from my troop, just trying to stay alive. There my troop just took 6 million damage, which could affect a timer win, but since DCKnight has a full team still of 4 players, my AoEs are dealing 4 times as much damage, or twice as much, since I had my troop just now. So I think I can still win the timer here as long as I can survive, which shouldn't be too much of a problem at the end. And there I win on timer on both. That was a real close fight though against both players. I think if that didn't go to a timer, I would have lost both those fights. If there was no time limit. Here's Groot, Frigga, using a Frigga on the left and using a Thor on the right. I don't remember seeing him use a Thor. That's interesting. Looks like he's showing off his 4 fused selves on the right. I don't remember him having all 4 fused selves before either. He has 2 Friggas, an Odin, and a Thor, which are kind of the 4 that everybody wants and prays for. I only have half of that. And it looks like Groot has that new Titan as well. You can see that buff on him on the right hand side that increases his crit damage by a lot. I don't remember exactly how much it is, but it makes him hit really hard. There's a lot of new Titans around that affect the gameplay a lot. Just a warning about one of them. I forget what it's called, but there's a Titan that reduces the cooldown on your next skill that you cast. And it's broken. It doesn't work. So it doesn't work in PvP at all. I've gotten caught in glitches in Class Wars, and Titan Wars, and Chaos Wars, Crossover Guild Battle, and the Venus Battle. Is that what it's called? Venus Battle? It doesn't work, which is really unfortunate because I love that skill. It's really useful. I can get 2 steals off in a row, or that was my thinking. But it's broken, and it'll probably take R squared. Well, actually, it would be 7 road. It'll probably take 7 road a good year to fix it, so I'm not holding my breath. Sorry about the zoom in change on the right hand side. While I was recording, I accidentally bumped the escape button and I dropped out of full screen mode. So we got an extra little zoom in, but that's okay. I'm not too worried. On the right-hand side, Groot is using a Thor, and I have electric and fire resistance, so he's not going to kill me. And then he has a full team of 4. My troops are already dead at this point. And he doesn't have any AoEs anyways. So I'm pretty confident I can win a timer win on the right. On the left-hand side, Groot is using a Frigga, which could be dangerous, but he just doesn't hit me hard enough to be that real of a threat. I think the left-hand side, the fight's a little closer, going to timer. I never dismiss Groot, because Groot is very tanky, very hard to kill. And so, since I'm using a defensive tactic, I can out-defense him, but if I was using an offensive tactic, I might not do very well. Here's Chilimack, always using the same strategy with his Thor. I think I've only beaten Chilimack once, and that was back in February. And it was really lucky that I beat him. That was like an aligning of the stars. Might have been March, I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Haven't beat him since. Chili just has outrageous amounts of attack stat. He hits so phenomenally hard. He just hit my Udam on there for 6 million. I can't compete with players of that magnitude. And that's a big part of why I use the defensive strategy that I do. On the right-hand side, I feel like I'm about to just get smoked. There, I managed to survive through that. That wasn't too bad. He hit me really hard, but it was only a couple million because my defense stats are really high. On the left-hand side, he's hitting me hard too, with the same thing. See, that was for 5 million, so I don't know what the difference in stats was between the two. Because that was the same attack. So, yeah, he kills me on both of them. So that's that. Can't really compete with Chilimack. I use my turtle strategy because without my defensive strategy, I wouldn't even be in Warlord's Hall. I'm ranked in the 70s for BR right now, I think. Some of these players just have 500,000 more BR than I do. I haven't gotten a new mount since, like, April. It's been months and months and months since I've gotten any of the new mounts, and that's where a lot of stats come from. It builds up over time. But I'm still able to be defensive enough to hang on. Here's Big Bailey, very tough player. I don't know that much about Big Bailey. I think Big Bailey was... He used to be part of... Well, he just joined our server group when we... Our cross-server group when we combined again in April, I think. But before that, I think he was part of our server group way back in the day, but that was before I was a big player, so I didn't really get to know him at all. He's definitely tough, and since he uses that Thor, he's always dangerous to me. On the left-hand side, I don't have any Thor resistance, and so he can slap me around. On the right side, I do have some Thor resistance, and he has some decent will crystals, enough to still hit me pretty hard. So it's still kind of scary. Yeah, plus 43%. That still hits pretty hard. But I'm able to turtle, that's always my strategy. On the right-hand side, you can see me juggling those runes. I have no cooldown on one of my runes right now, but I think that's the Titan that's broken. I don't remember. I've not been paying that much attention. I've been watching both. There, see, I used that Titan, or I used that rune, but it didn't work because that Titan doesn't work. I used the Guardian rune, but it just didn't auto attack, which is a big pain in the butt. That really bothers me because that was like the one thing that I cashed on. That's the one thing I cashed on in a really long time, and then it didn't even work. So It's just a fresh reminder of why I don't spend money on this game anymore, because whenever you do, you'll regret it. Support Wartune, yay! So here I'm clinging to life in both fights. On the right side, I finally got a heal off. Hang on there. On the left side, I'm in big trouble. Yeah, left side, I'm dead. Right side, I got my heal off just in the nick of time. I managed to survive to the timer. Sorry, I had to pause my recording for a second. That was weird. I have so many technical issues when I make these videos, I don't even know why I keep making them. I know why, because I love you guys, and I enjoy it. But there are a lot of problems. Really. So here's Shady. Shady's tough. I'll go with she. She always uses a Thor with 2 Friggas. She's been using that as long as I can remember. She's in the top 2 or 3 mages for BR. I think Zardoz and Ray are up there as well. Really, really tough player. Not someone that I can take lightly. On the left-hand side of the screen, I know that I'm pretty much done. Like, there's nothing I can do. I have no electrofire resistance. I was trying my turtle strategy as best I can. I'm doing that on both sides of the screen. But I know at the end of the day, it's probably going to come to just a BR battle. And I can't compete with these top players anymore. Thankfully, my Titans, my Guardian Titan and my Guardian Rune, can help me weather those big hits. Survive through some of these attacks. And I actually got really lucky with not taking a big hit on the right side. That otherwise I probably would have lost right there or shortly after. But I got lucky with a dodge. On the left side, Shady's hopping right back up into self mode, which does not sound good for me because there's not a lot I can do against someone that hits that hard. On the right side, I'm doing a little better off because Shady's dropping out of self mode as we go into the plus 100% damage. Looks like Shady's trying to get back up into self mode, but at least she's a little slower getting there. Yeah, I'm hanging in there on both fights, but it's really scary fighting a player that I know can just hit this hard. I have the same thing every time I face off ReeRaa or Ray or Zardoz or Chilimack. There's a lot of players that can pretty much kill me in one shot if I don't have my guard up. That's why I switched all my stats into defense too, so that I'm not getting one shot anymore. I had that problem a while back. Already dead on the left side, and I managed to survive that hit. And I win on the timer. Yay! I got a win against Shady. So, pat myself on the back for that one. Normally, I really don't stand much of a chance against her. Here's Kuta, who's kind of come out of nowhere. She really wasn't on my radar that much. I don't know if that was just me not paying attention, but I don't really remember her being like a big player, a big threat. But now she's consistently in the top 20, 30 players overall for BR. And placing very well in class wars. You'll see her in the rankings. So, not really sure where she came from. She might have just cashed a lot recently. Or maybe I just don't pay very much attention and she's actually been strong all along and I'm just an idiot. That's possible. I am not very smart. Looks like she's using her all 3 fused selves, every color of the rainbow. She probably likes Skittles. Taste the rainbow. She has that huge crit buff going from that new Titan. And she's got a big Delphic coming, and I have no shields on, and this is really going to hurt. But it actually didn't hurt that much, because I have light dark resistance, and just my stats are really high. My defense stats are just astronomical. I think I'm running like almost 1.4 million MDef for this. I know Odin's deal physical attack, but for that I have about 1.1 million. So I'm feeling so tanky. I'm able to hang on. Kuta is really tough. Has a lot of tanky stats, kind of like Zardoz and ReeRaa. But doesn't hit hard enough to really take me out. So when it comes to timer wins, I've been winning a lot. So I feel pretty confident. And also, just using an Odin, my strategy is set up pretty well to take out Odins. Because they can't kill me, and if they're using a full team, I can win on timer. So I'm really not worried about Odins. It's really the Friggas and the occasional Thor I have to worry about, because the Thor will kill me, and the Friggas can sometimes win on timer, or kill me as well. But these Odins, they're so well balanced, they're so well rounded, that they're not really good at anything. Winding down into the timer, always a struggle to stay alive in these last 45 seconds, and that's because I just hit so hard, and there I die against Kuta. But I still get the timer win, because she killed me after the timer was already out. If you get the kill, but you're too late, then you still don't get to win the fight. Here's my buddy Asher on the right, and then Chastity on the left. Asher wasn't in Class Wars at all on the 1st of September. He's had a lot of stuff going on at home, and so he's not been playing Wartune nearly as much. He's not been caching. I think he's the only player in the top 100 rankings who doesn't have VIP activated. So he doesn't even have more than, 2 or 3 dimensions going at a time, because you need VIP to get your 5 dimensions. Yeah, it's 100%. I was just checking out that buff. Asher has it going. He's using that Thor, capable of doing lots of damage, but I have my shields. If I can get it off, maybe. Even if he doesn't, my stats are still really high. Asher's not been playing as much lately, and so he's kind of been falling behind a little bit. He's still a very tough player, never to be taken lightly, for sure. He has a Class Wars win and a lot of other 2nd and 3rd places. So never to be underestimated, but he's not the powerhouse he used to be. And then Chastity has been kind of in and out of Warlord's Hall a little bit. I think I remember seeing her in one of Ellington's videos from Warriors Hall. So she's kind of in that top 24 bracket. So tough enough to be worth paying attention to. I'm pretty late getting into self mode on the left-hand side, which could cost me that fight. On the right, I'm feeling pretty confident about surviving till timer against Asher and winning on timer. Since I got that heal off on the left, I'm feeling pretty confident about that one too. That Chastity's not going to get back into self mode, and I'm definitely winning on damage, because she's had her whole team of 4 troops the whole time. And I have some big AoEs to deal. I do really like that Ice Bolt on my Frigga. You notice I never use any Delphics when I'm in self mode. I do have that shield on my bar, but I only use that for things like Titan Wars or Venus Battle. I don't use that shield in Class Wars because I want to stay in self mode. I don't use any Delphics. I don't use anything that uses up my awakening points. And I win both of those on timer. So I prefer to stay in Sylph mode. That's also why I keep my Eudaimon on. Even though I'm trying to win on timer, I still keep my Eudaimon because that reduces the rate that your awakening points decrease. That's one of their passives. And I like to stay in Sylph mode. Once I hop into Sylph mode, I want to stay there. So I don't use my Delphix. And the Ice Bolt and Steel deal as much damage as the Frigga Delphic attack anyways. So I don't feel a lot of inclination to use that Delphic attack, because it's really not any better than Steel. It's actually quite a bit worse than Steel, because Steel gives you awakening points instead of reducing. I know other players think differently though, they just want to do a lot of damage. I'm thinking if you're going to use a Frigga, you're not going to do a lot of damage, so just kind of roll with its strengths, you know? Frigga has a lot of good AoEs, so just use a lot of AoEs. Here's Robert 1, consistently in Warlord's Hall, it looks like, but not necessarily one of the toughest players. But again, he's using that Frigga, so he has the AoEs to be dangerous to me. So I'm a little slower getting into Sylph mode on the right-hand side, because I don't want him hitting my Sylph troop too much. And since I don't carry water resistance, he could be pretty lethal to me. You know, I count on players not using water resistance. I think I'm the toughest player nowadays for mages that runs Frigga as a main. So I count on players not having water res, and that's one of the only ways that I can deal damage. My AoEs can hit troops really hard because they don't have the resistance. So on the right-hand side, Robert is just not able to get any awakening points. I'm keeping him down. On the left-hand side, I'm getting out some good AoEs, doing lots of damage, stopping him from being able to do much. The right-hand side of the screen was after the patch that came out in mid-September that had a lot more stats in smelting and tattoo engraving. And I didn't put, like, for the new Outland contest stuff, I've not been buying smelting stones. I've been buying the tattoo engraving stones. And then for this Class Wars, I actually couldn't get the defense stat to come up. So I think I have, like, extra charisma, which is actually negative charisma. So I don't have that playing in my favor. I've not crunched the numbers on it. There, you can see on the right-hand side, I just took off that Titan that doesn't work. I've not crunched the numbers on it, but I'm not sure which is better to put your Outland crystals into, whether it's smelting or tattoo engraving. I think smelting is probably a better investment, but I just did tattoo engraving. I just picked one. It didn't seem like that big of a difference. Maybe I was wrong. Here's BeautifulBod. Didn't show up for Class Wars Finals on the right-hand side on the 29th. And that's alright, you know, life happens. Sometimes you gotta make other priorities. This happened to me before too. On Christmas Eve, I didn't show up. Or Christmas Day, whenever that was. But BeautifulBod is a powerful player for sure. Always using an Odin though, and I'm really confident against Odins. I have to be careful what I say in these videos, because I feel like I influence people. I know for sure some players have adjusted their strategy based on what I've said on here in order to defend against me. On the right-hand side, you can see I'm taking off all my Electrofire res and putting on Wind and Light and Dark. Because I've been watching, and I know that I've not faced Zardoz or Ray yet. I didn't know that Zardoz was one of the Whitleys at this point. So I'm switching over to Wind res. Where was I going? I totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, players watch my videos and base their strategies off of that. I know that for a fact because I've talked to some players about it. So if I say, yeah, Odins are dumb, And I can always beat an Odin. I feel like next month, nobody's going to use an Odin. I don't know. I'd like to think that players aren't influenced by me that much, and that they can make their own decisions and not do what I tell them to. Because I'm just a player like anybody else. I just do what I can. And I happen to defend against Odins. But I know, like, Big Bailey is in 4th right now, on the right-hand side of the screen, it looks like, using an Odin, so that's doing pretty well. Chili and Shady both run Thors, and Ray's using Goddess of Prosperity. And there's Kuta, doing very well, as well. So, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see as many Odins next month. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. You never know. I'm not going to tell you what kind of resistance to put on, because who knows what people are going to use. On the left-hand side of the screen, these fights are out of order, but the very last fight is in order. My very last fight was the same last fight for both. So that's going to be fun to watch. Here's Onslaught using another Odin. I'm feeling pretty confident against Odins, especially as the evening wears on. Because I'm feeling safe in my resistances, and that these Odins are really tanky, but they just don't hit nearly hard enough to kill me. And with the full teams like Onslaught's using, I know that I'll be able to get some AoEs in and win. Here I could have used that AoE, but I wanted to wait for his troops to get up, so I waited one more round, which probably was not very good, because his Yudaemon just used a Rage Steal. That was a pretty low level Rage Steal though, because it didn't take that much rage. I don't know. Wonder what level that is. On the left side of the screen, I'm able to keep some shields up whenever he does a big delf. Even if he hits my troops, I know that he's not going to kill me. And if I can just make it to timer, I'm feeling pretty safe. Here I have no shields, but I have lots of health, and I can stop him from... On the right-hand side, I can stop him from getting his big delf off. Always a struggle to stay alive. Got to keep those heals coming. This is strange watching both of them at the same time, seeing how the timing works out. Here, as we get down into the last minute, like being able to watch 2 different fights at the same time is kind of fun. If you've been paying attention, on the left-hand side of the screen, between fights, you can see that I have just shy of 60,000 bound Balins. I finally got that up over the 60,000 mark. It took me since April to get that many bound Balins without caching. So I finally made another Fused Self. I didn't use it yet, though. I just made it the last event. So who knows what I made? I know some of my server mates know, but don't tell. Shh, it's a secret. Winding down to timer, getting in some big AoEs, and I'm feeling real confident in both these fights that despite Onslaught's awesome power, I pull out the timer win. And I bump up into 5th place on the right side with 2 fights left. Still not fought Ray or Zardoz. And then here's ReeRaa on the right. And then Lord TH on the left. So ReeRaa wasn't around on September 1st either, which is interesting. Wonder where he was. Well, real life happens. Maybe he didn't make it at all, or maybe he just didn't put on the right sylphs or Yudaemon or whatever. Different things happen. A lot of the same stuff. This is another reason I didn't want to make 2 videos, 2 voiceovers, because I just don't have that much to say, because all these fights kind of go the same way. I throw up my shields, turtle, try not to take too much damage, and do lots of AoEs. That's kind of a simple strategy. It kind of feels like I'm trolling players, though. Like, I'm breaking the rules somehow, that you're supposed to try to kill your opponent, and I'm breaking the rules by not. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I feel like, I don't know what the word is. I think I'm just messing with people. A trickster. Like Till Eulenspiegel, for those music nerds out there. So, feeling pretty confident against both these players. Lord TH traditionally has not been the strongest of players, but he's strong enough to kind of, well, like any of these players, he's strong enough to not completely dismiss. And then ReeRaa is consistently one of the scariest players out there. So it's interesting having these 2 fights going on at the same time. I was able to stop ReeRaa from using that Delphic, which is great. Lord TH on the left using that Frigga could be a little scarier. Lord TH is also using a Chaos Rune over there. I made a big post about Chaos Runes for Dolly Games a while back, and ended up not publishing it after I put in all the work, because they keep changing how Chaos Runes work in Class Wars. Everywhere else they work the same, you know, exactly as the description says. You can't distinguish between friend and foe. But in Class Wars it's different, and it changes almost patch to patch. So if you want to run a bunch of tests yourself, go ahead. I've run a bunch of tests. I've used up so much time running tests with Chaos Runes, but then they'll change it again the very next patch. So it's not worth my time anymore. Now when I get cast in Chaos Wars, I just push through it. I just ignore it and keep on doing attacks. Barely cling to life against ReeRaa and managed to pull out a timer win. And here is race 7. Last fight of the day for both of my Chaos Wars, or Class Wars this month. And this is the actual last fight for both of them, which is a really rough way to finish. And I really wonder if Race 7 watches these videos. I'll have to ask her, because she's on my server now. We did a server merge. I have to ask her if she watches my videos, because she's the only player not getting into Sylph mode right away. She's staying down, which is very much, like, counter to my strategy. Like, it's the perfect way to counter my strategy, because normally I wait out my opponents and let them use up all their awakening points before I get into Sylph mode. But against Rey, that just doesn't happen, because she has 3 Wind Sylphs on her team, and she's patient. She and I are just kind of bouncing back and forth, doing a little bit of damage here and there. But not actually hopping up into Sylph mode until later in the fight. There, see, she can still go. I'm so frustrated at this point, just saying, go to Sylph mode already! I want to be able to do AoEs! But by this late in the fight, her damage is just too high. I'm not going to be able to survive if I'm not in Sylph mode. But she has so many steals on her team, it's almost impossible to get into Sylph mode. There, see, she just did a steal on the right side. On the left side, I managed to get into Sylph mode, but I'm already in a pretty bad place for health. My troop is gone. On the right side, I'm in World of Hurt. Little chance of getting into Sylph mode, and I have just no prospects. I'm toast. There I die on the left, and there I die on the right. Almost at the exact same time. And that's a wrap. That's Class Wars. Thanks for watching. I just read Felicia Day's book. Random shout out to Felicia Day. If you haven't watched her web series, The Guild, you should check that out. It's on YouTube. Great web series, and if you've already seen it and you're a Felicia Day fan, then you should check out her book, You're Never Weird on the Internet Almost. I really enjoyed that. So thanks for watching my Class Wars videos. Let me know what you think. If you really liked the split screen, let me know. I still won't do it again though, because it just took so much time and effort to make this video. I'm not going to do it again. But let me know if you liked it, because I always like feedback. And stay tuned for more videos from Dolly Games.